So this is going to be a video on creating a new part in Locate. This is Lance with Brando Consulting, inventory software expert since 2006. So let's take a look at these screens here. To create a new part in Locate, go to Stock, Parts, and plus sign right here. Now I just Googled bulk vanilla suppliers and found this guy here. So we're going to create this part, this gallon of vanilla extract, liquid vanilla extract. So I click new and it gives me this screen here. The first thing I do is select the part type. Now I started this example with just a simple one, and this is just going to be an inventory part type, but notice there's a lot of other different part types that we'll go over in another video. Service, shipping, supplies. So I'm just going to select inventory. Now this part, if I buy it from the vendor, already comes with a UPC number. We can decide to use the vendor part number or use our own part number. Doesn't matter, you can use both. A lot of people adopt just the vendor's part number as long as you're not selling that part number to your customer. So you just want to avoid having the part number on your sales order match the part number on your purchase order. And the reason, because we're in the e-commerce world. Now this example, this part number may not be that big of a deal, but if you have a part that looks the same as you bought it, you're just a middleman, right? You're the distributor and you're marking up the price. And we want to try to protect ourselves from the customer typing in the part number and then just buying it from the vendor at a lower price. I don't know if that's a risk to you, but it's definitely something to think about. In this case, I'm going to be using this vanilla in a work order to make ice cream. So we're not going to be selling this to the customer. So I think I'm just going to adopt the vendor part number. So I'll just copy and paste, honestly. There's their UPC. That makes it easy. So we can scan that. Now, if we didn't put this UPC number in here, Locate would auto-generate a part number. So that's kind of cool. And then the name. So let's grab the name. What's the name of this product here? La Venciadora. 1 gallon for pure Mexican vanilla extract from Mexico. That's kind of more of a description. Kind of wordy. I don't know. It's kind of a web description, right? It more description than, or more bragging than description, kind of. It's not really matter of fact. It's kind of a salesy description. 1 gallon for pure Mexican vanilla extract from Mexico. We could just roll with that. That's fine. Or also, if we want to keep it short and sweet, and there's only one kind of vanilla extract we purchase, we could just name it vanilla extract. Vanilla extract, right? If you purchase vanilla extract from a couple of different vendors and they're slightly different, then sure, we could get into some more detail. But the name here should be short and sweet. Give it 2 or 3 words max, right? It's just a name. It's like a nickname. And then the description, we can get into further detail. Sales price. There is no sales price because I'm going to use this in a work order. I'm going to consume it in a work order. Stocking unit. We definitely want to change that. Don't just go with each because each cannot be fractioned. Go with something that can be fractioned because we want to consume this in a work order and consume a fraction of it. And also, as we saw in this picture, this is a gallon. So the unit of measure for this, we definitely want that to be a gallon. Later in the work order, we'll probably consume it in ounces or milliliters or tablespoons, some other unit of measure. But this one, so let's make this gallon. And when we run a report in Locate, it'll show us how many gallons we have in stock, and those gallons will also be partial gallons because we may consume partial gallons. So we'll say gallon. There we go. And then this default vendor field right here should be used. Don't skip over it. Don't get in a hurry, because what this does is it enables you to use the purchasing tools later on. One of the reasons we purchase inventory software is to help us make good purchasing decisions. So assigning a vendor to this will help us later on when we use the automated purchasing tool. So what vendor was this? This was La Vencedora. That's what it looks like. Let me just double check. No, this is Leos Imports. La vida es una... Yeah, I don't speak Spanish. Leos Imports looks like. Yeah. So let's set this vendor up. Click Add. Leos Imports. Default payment terms. Yeah, we can fill all that out later, I think. Right now, that's a good start. Is this serialized? No. We may want to track the lot number since it's a consumable food item. So it's not serialized, but we'll probably add lot number tracking to this. It's not on this screen, so I'll show you that here in a second. Is expirable. Yeah, I think vanilla needs to be tracked by expiration date, most likely. I bet if we zoom in here, there may even be an expiration date stamped on this. I could be wrong, but I tend to think that consumable food items have expiration dates and usually tracked by lot number. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm going to say yes right here, just for the purpose of this video. I'll let you decide what you want to do with your products. Okay, cost. What is the cost per gallon? Let's make sure that the cost lines up with the unit of measure. $36.99 if we buy a gallon. And then, I bet this caught your eye as it did me, buy in bulk and save. That's common, right? So, boop, 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 boop. We've got vendor costing rules here. And let's do that in another video. Let's look over how to make sure we have the vendor costing rules in the system. We can, manage the discounts, the vendor discounts, if we buy in at certain levels from 2 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 11. Locate does have discount groups and discount rules and pricing rules that you can use to manage that. So definitely need to go over that in another video. Let's put just the single price in for this demonstration. Go ahead and put that price. And then attribute set is not something we need to use for this gallon of vanilla. Attribute sets comes in handy if you're setting up a part that comes in different sizes or colors. Like if you're putting in shirts and shirt sizes. If you add an attribute set, then you should select like an inventory collection type part, and then it will automatically create all of your part numbers for all of those different sizes. Awesome feature, but definitely doesn't apply to a gallon of vanilla. Parent part? Nope, there's no parent part. So we'll click save, and our part is in there. Serialized? No. Expirable? Yes. Now I mentioned lot number tracking. If we want to turn lot number tracking on, manage, yes, tracking. We'll click tracking, and then there's this other field right here. The field name will say lot. I don't know if you track vanilla by lot, but let's go through this feature just so you see how it works. Input type, auto increment, text box. So just because we say lot right there didn't do anything functionally, it just entered the name of the tracking field. So this is where the function comes in. We need to make sure that we select the correct input type. Notice we got auto increment, date box, all these different types of tracking functions. Starting value, I can leave that blank. I'll just go ahead and leave that blank. We'll just keep it simple. And click Add Tracking. There we go. And there we see that there's an expiration date with a date type box and a lot number with text box. Now it's good to note here that if your part is tracked by lot number, you need to set this up for each part. And just to be sure that it works well with reports, make sure that you give them all the exact same name. So they don't, all the parts in locate don't share a common lot tracking value. For each part, lot tracking needs to be turned on. This can be turned on in mass through an import or one at a time like you see here. So make sure you spell the name of the tracking value exactly the same for each part. So later on, if you're building custom reports, this is easier to query. So we created a part. Let's take a look at the results. We've got no sales price because we consume it. MSRP, I left blank. UPC isn't required. The number is right here, so it's going to read it. Notice we've got a default vendor. That's good. That's awesome. So that will work with our automated purchasing tool. And the cost for that is right here. It's not a dropship vendor. They're just going to send it direct. Allow parts on orders. So I could change this here. See where it says sales order yes? These are just the default settings that popped up. So we can go ahead and take that off and say, no, this is not a part that we sell. So we're going to take it off the purchase order. And it is going to go on a work order. Sure, it might go on a transfer order. So decide where you want to show it and where you don't. Quote, it's not going to go on a quote because we don't sell it. So we'll click Save right there. Attribute sets and parent parts down below, those will be forever blank. Add notes if we want, and we don't have any in stock yet. We'll purchase those to bring them into stock. And notice there's our unit of measure that we selected, gallons. And this is a nice feature in Locate. You can go to a part and see all of its outstanding activity. Notice it'll show you if it's on a work order, on a return order, use order, any of the orders we say it's allowed to show up on. Well, I guess it shows the ones we say it's not allowed to show up on too. And yeah, so anyways, we can see all of the orders. If we need to upload specs, instructions, pictures, anything like that for this part, we can do that here. And if this part has individual specific account mapping to QuickBooks that needs to override the default account mapping, we can set that up here. These are all the part related accounts. If it's sold, we'll use that account. Any of these sales accounts and COGS accounts. When it's pulled in, assets is debited, inventory offset, purchase variance, scrap and adjustment, all the possible account mappings we can assign individually to each individual part to override the default account mapping. This is a nice way to see what this part is associated with. When we add this part to a bill of material, it will show up here. We won't be adding it to bundles or aliases. An alias is just another name for the part. If we were selling it and we may want to sell it at a different part name, alias would be used for that if it needs to be sold as a different part name. Now there's an unlimited number of barcode numbers that this part could be recognized by. Say you have a part that you purchase from a dozen different vendors, and so there's a dozen different part numbers that it could be recognized by. Or you have UPC and SKU and what's the other one? TIN, I think? No, G10, Global Trade Item Number. Here we see if this part is assigned to a customer or the customer part number for this part, the vendor part number for this part. I don't know why, but we could put this vendor right here, the same preferred vendor that we had before, and the vendor part number. Obviously, if they were different, you could put that there. Here, the vendor has its own name or description, if you will. Put that here or there. And then this is what would show up on the purchase order. So here we have the vendor part unit of measure. If it's different from the unit of measure, we want to view it in stock. So the part unit of measure is our stocking unit of measure that we can run a report and see what we have in stock, or if we're doing a physical count, that's how we would count it. And the vendor part unit of measure is what we would purchase it from. So we're purchasing it in gallons. It says leave blank if it's gallon. Minimum order quantity is used in the purchasing tool, so that's a really valuable thing to have there if the vendor requires a minimum purchase amount. This vendor obviously allows us to purchase just 1 gallon, so we can leave that blank. An increment is nice. So some vendors say, no, we won't sell it to you unless you buy 5 at a time or 10 at a time. Yes, we're going to price it by the gallon, and yes, you have to buy at least, 5 gallons, but they may not let you buy 6 gallons. You may have to buy increments of 5, meaning 5, 10, 15, 20, right? Or maybe they only sell full pallet loads for other parts. So that's what you put here for increment. And if you forget, there's a nice little tool tip that explains it. Max order quantity, I guess there's some vendors that won't let you purchase more than a max. And of course, this is the vendor price. So I know we put these fields in above, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll go ahead and fill this out again so we can discuss it. Lead time. Awesome. We can put it in right there. Lead time in days, weeks, or months. So these guys, they said they were in Mexico, right? Yeah, Leos Imports. So we definitely want to keep tabs on the lead time so we can manage that. We'll say 3 weeks. And now we have the vendor part portion set up, which really empowers the automated purchasing tool later on. Now, of course, this can be set up in mass on an import for all of your parts. When you're first setting up your database, you can import this in mass. I mentioned earlier discount groups and different types of groups. We'll just take a quick peek at groups. Notice there's bill of material groups, part groups, report groups. So we can create all different types of parts. I have a group called perishable there. So it looks like this part belongs to the perishable group just because it's sitting there, but it actually isn't. It's just showing all available groups for this part. And we know this because there's a button here that says add to group. So if I click on that, it now has a check saying it's part of that group. So if we feel like vanilla is perishable, then we can make it part of the group. And what that does is lets you run reports later and perform searches to see all the parts in that particular group, or report on parts in that particular group. Sales reports, inventory reports, things like that. So groups help you organize your parts. We've got stocking unit of measure. If we want to put the dimensions in here, we can put the dimensions and the unit of measure for those dimensions. Weight, we can have that in there. That comes in handy when calculating shipping and shipping charges. And then of course here we go, our conversions. So we're definitely going to use conversions, right? When we're dealing with liquids, gallons, maybe you buy something from the vendor in 50-gallon barrels and then you want to view it in stock as gallons, or maybe you'll pick it or do physical counts and cycle counts from a gallon perspective. Just an example. I don't know how realistic of an example it is, but you've got your conversions. Notice we can't create a new unit of measure here. 50 gallons equals 1, and if we had a unit of measure previously created, that would go there. Here we're just creating the conversions. You create your units of measure up here under Setup, Units of Measure, and then click New Units of Measure if you need to create a new unit of measure. And that's found under Measurements and then scroll all the way down to the bottom to create a conversion. Of course, I don't have it filled out, so it's not going to do it. You get the idea. So order add-ons are cool. Let me move my mug down here. Click on order add-ons. What this does is if you have a part that you're promoting, this is just one example. I'm sure there's other applications to this, but let's say they buy that, and if they buy it, they get a free t-shirt. So the order add-on would be a shirt. I don't know if I have any shirts in here. So there we go, added a shirt, 1 multiplier, save. Now, if we add this gallon of vanilla extract to the sales order, which I know is not the most realistic example, but you get the idea. If we were to sell this on a sales order, then this would automatically be added on the sales order. Really cool. Here we can view our pricing rules. We won't create our pricing rules from here. Pricing rules are created under the rules area, but you can view the pricing rules associated with this part from right here. And reorder points is one of my favorites. Under manage reorder points. Each reorder point is set up per site. In other words, per warehouse. Some good sophisticated features can be found here to help you manage your purchasing and manage your inventory levels. So all of your A-class parts should have some cushion embedded in the reorder point calculation. Your B-class parts should have no safety stock but have a reorder point, and then your C-class parts should not have a reorder point. Substitutes. In case you're out of that part, the system will say, hey, try to sell them this instead. See if they'll go for this. This is really close to the same thing. And then, of course, we already looked at tracking and lot numbers. These actions are nice. Locate has a very thorough audit trail, and we can clone and create aliases. So thanks for joining me today on a simple creation of a part and a thorough look at all of the functions related to the part and all the functions on the part screen. In another video, I'll go through the different types of parts and the functions of the different types of parts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions.